Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Saturday, February 29th. Today's the day, South Carolina primary. Now, it's like I said a few days ago, and this was actually a prediction for after South Carolina, so the media seems to have gotten ahead of me a little bit on this one. You guys all no doubt know the same thing, how media works, what I was talking about. So the last couple days, the media has been saying, Biden this, Biden that. He's making a comeback. His donors are prepared to make huge investments on Super Tuesday after this expected comeback in South Carolina. And like I said, I was talking about that a few days ago, but it's funny how the media cycle goes, right? This guy's left for dead a few days ago. After the Nevada caucus, all of a sudden these numbers come out of South Carolina where they're expecting a big win for him. And hey, all of a sudden he's back alive again. Bernie's dead. Oh my God. You know how it is, the overreaction in the media and the news and all that. So let me show you guys something real quick here if you're not totally up to date with how South Carolina works. 63 delegates, 54 pledged, 9 super delegates. That doesn't really come into play right now, but it's proportional allocation. So they have to get 15% minimum vote to get any delegates at all. And the caucus in Nevada was the same way. Take a look down here real quick. And this is on 270 to win. I've used this site before. Now they project of the 54 delegates, Biden to get 35 and Sanders to get 19. They're projecting those two candidates as being the only ones who hit the 15% threshold. So take a look here real quick at the numbers, and I'll show you a different site, a 538 site, so you can just see the comparison between the two in terms of their polling. So the aggregate, they've got Biden about 36, Sanders about 20, Steyer coming in at 13, so he's just below the threshold, Buttigieg at 10, the others insignificant. Other over here obviously is Michael Bloomberg. They don't have an aggregate for him here because some of these polls must not have had him in there. So how does that compare to some of the other polls? So take a look. I'll show you this. All right, this is the 538 poll, and this is actually one that I showed a few days ago in my other South Carolina video. So you can see the charting here. Biden's actually opened up a huge lead over Sanders, but they have him tracking at 38 as opposed to 36 in the 270 to win poll. So let's take a look at the numbers here. So if you take a look at the aggregates here, you see Biden's at 38, Sanders at 19, Steyer's at 12, 12.5, Bloomberg's at 9.5, Buttigieg at 8.5, Warren at 7, Klobuchar 4, Gabbard's still around for some reason, but these numbers are pretty consistent with the 270 to win site within a point or two. And so now you see why the Biden camp and his supporters and the donors like that are getting excited. They think this is his big comeback. And it was maybe just about a week ago where he and Sanders, I know I have it off the screen here, let me scroll up real quick and I'll show you, where their numbers came pretty close to being equal at one point, and then all of a sudden after the debate and subsequent time that Biden spent in South Carolina, it started to open up a lot. So there was a point where it looked pretty bleak for Joe in South Carolina, and that was the problem. With that in mind, though, let me show you this. One other thing, this was yesterday actually, so you may have heard of this, called Operation Chaos. And Republicans in South Carolina are looking at trying a little something here to help Bernie do better in South Carolina than he should. All right, this is a Reuters article actually from the 27th, and it says here, Republicans' Operation Chaos seeks to undermine South Carolina's Democratic primary. And you like how they use the word undermined as if it's some kind of negative term here, but let's read this quickly and then I'll talk about what I think about it and how I think that it's not necessarily a good idea, and I'd love to hear what you guys think about it. I know that causing the chaos and stuff like that's pretty funny, but just hear me out on this. Let's read this real quick. I'm not going to read the whole thing. You'll get the gist here quickly. It says, Republican activists in South Carolina are urging party voters to do the seemingly unthinkable. Support U.S. Senator Bernie Sanders' bid for the White House in the state's Democratic primary on Saturday. The unusual effort is aimed at exposing what the activists see as flaws in the southern state's open primary system, and at boosting the candidate many Republicans view as the easiest rival for President Donald Trump to beat in November. Sanders enters Saturday's contest as a frontrunner for the Democratic nomination, fueled by wins in New Hampshire and Nevada and a near tie for first in Iowa. But the Vermonter and independent, who calls himself a Democratic socialist, now faces a tough challenge from Joe Biden. The former vice president is bolstered by strong support from African Americans, who comprise a large share of South Carolina's Democratic electorate. Bernie is a socialist and the most egregious of all candidates. He is also the weakest against Trump, said Presley Stutz, a Tea Party activist and one of the organizers behind the interference effort dubbed Operation Chaos. The Sanders campaign did not respond to requests for comment. Democrats and Republicans previously have threatened to interfere with the other party's primary process in South Carolina and elsewhere, generally without success. In Iowa, however, Republicans boasted they clogged the Democratic telephone lines, exacerbating embarrassing delays in reporting caucus results. I will kind of scroll down to the end here a little bit, wrap it up here. It says a public policy polling survey released on Monday found that a fair number of Trump supporters plan to vote in the Democratic primary, but the survey said their dispersed support among several candidates meant they would not be a factor. State Republican Party Chairman Drew McKissick said his organization has not endorsed the activists' efforts, nor has it called for the movement to stop. I'm not sure exactly how this will move the needle, he said. I do know that I'm having fun watching the Democratic circus, and that Bernie Sanders, a socialist, would provide the ultimate contrast between the two parties. So here's what I would say about that. And like I said, if you're a Republican and you're watching this video, or an independent, even perhaps, this may be something that you would like to see. It's kind of like election season's boring. These things seem to drag on forever and ever and ever. I mean, it's only the end of February now. Can you imagine how fatigued we're going to be by the time the summer rolls around if this thing just keeps going and going and it looks like nobody's going to secure the amount of delegates needed to get the Democratic nomination, which looks pretty likely at this point. But can you imagine how fatigued everybody's going to be? So I see what they want to do. They want to spice it up here. They're trying to get Bernie in there against Trump. I totally get it. Now, from the Democratic side, you have to be kind of shaking your head as well. And this is where what I think about it really comes into play. And like I said, I'd love to hear what you guys think about it, but think about it this way. I get what they're trying to do. I see the long-term goal, trying to get Bernie in there against Trump. But my feeling is kind of like the old adage says sometimes, be careful what you ask for. Why would you look to put somebody in there and get him more support and more delegates? You know, and like I said, I get it. You're trying to get him over the threshold, but why not try to throw your support behind somebody like a Tulsi Gabbard, for instance, or a Klobuchar, somebody who's really weak and has no shot at winning the nomination? To me, if I was out there organizing something, it would seem funnier if we could get somebody like Tulsi to the point where she hit the 15% threshold and she stayed in the race and kept on going. As I say, that's just kind of like my cynical nature. I don't think that assisting Bernie is really the best way to go about it. But I do get the ultimate agenda behind it. I get the goal. My feeling is that most people probably aren't going to want to do this. They're probably going to stick with, as the article set up there, they're going to be dispersed amongst a variety of candidates. Even if you're a Republican, you still generally have some idea of who you'd like to see, or like you may have some favorite amongst the Democratic Party. Say I were involved in the whole political process and I was a Republican. Who would I care for? Who would I like more? Would I like Tulsi? Would I like Pete? I couldn't vote Sanders, no way, if I was a Republican. Maybe it's Biden, who knows, but somebody that's at least somewhat tolerable on some level. And again, that depends on your values. But as I said, I just think that aiding a candidate who's already the leading candidate, and I know what the polls are saying, to me this really would seem like a way of kind of galvanizing the party and giving Pelosi something to talk about. We know a few things when it comes to the media. Obviously, we know they have their biases. The media is definitely in the hands of the Democrats here. They're definitely in the pocket of the Democrats. If this happens this way, and it creates a huge rift, say it really moved the needle to the point where polls come out to be totally inaccurate, like say they have Biden projected to win by 16 and he wins by 3 points or something like that, then that gives Pelosi and the Democrats and the media the ammo they need to try to point the finger at the Republicans and say, hey, look at Trump. It's Trump. It's Trump. More lying, more cheating. That's the Republicans. So like I said, it's a way to galvanize individuals to where if eventually Bernie does get the nomination, it may create a situation where Democrats are more likely to get behind him just because of this whole situation in South Carolina. Because if it works here, then Republicans may try to do the same thing if there's other open primary states out there where Trump's not on the ballot. Now, like I said, you may disagree. You may want to just like stir in that pot a little bit and love the action. And if you're in South Carolina, you just may want to see a little drama. Hey, trust me, I totally get it. My feeling is if I were a Republican in South Carolina, I wouldn't want my party trying to interfere with their thing. Just let their thing play out the way that it's going to play out. Focus on the general. Don't worry about it. Trump, for Republicans, I wouldn't worry about it. Trump's out there still doing the rallies, crisscrossing all these different states. I would really just focus on the Republican message. What's your message to the people? Turning out the vote, expanding your voter base. But again, like I said, that's just me. I'm a boring old square. Yeah, like I said, I mean, it's something where, like I said, you can kind of open a Pandora's box. And the way that the party's been a mess so far, and the way all these debates and these states have gone on so far with these caucuses and all the flubs and errors, it's a circus, like the article says. So why not let the circus continue to play out on its own and then see what happens? Because the way it's looking, we're headed towards a brokered convention, and that's going to be a huge circus if they do something like that and they take the nomination from Bernie again. That's the video for today. Those are my thoughts. South Carolina, the numbers are looking pretty good for Biden, so it'd be kind of easy to call him as the winner. Bernie, he looks like he'll cross the delegate threshold. Based on what we're seeing, it looks like they're the only two to do it. But again, if Biden wins big, all the media, you're going to hear it come Monday. Biden's making a comeback. Super Tuesday's more important than ever. You guys know how it goes, right? Thanks as always for watching the video, and take care, everybody.